Hi, Cara.
Hi, Jess.
I am glad to be joined again by Dr. Cara Natterson. You guys are now familiar with her. She is a pediatrician, a best-selling author. You've read her newsletter probably by now, Worry Proof MD. Usually we talk about just the medicine and science of COVID, but today I want to talk to you about parenting because a lot of my friends who are parents are losing their minds. I bet you're seeing the same thing.
And I'm a parent too. So yes.
You give a lot of parenting advice. So I'd love to ask, I've heard, from some friends that their younger kids are settling in really well and to stay at home, but their older kids are having some challenges. Is that something you're seeing across the board, and how do you explain that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. In the very beginning, the little kids were struggling, right? You plucked them out of their preschool. You told them they had to stay home all day. They couldn't see their friends. But after a little while, they get into a new routine and they adjust. And frankly, they're really excited to have the attention of their family. And so I'm not saying it's easy with little kids by any stretch, but the kids themselves seem to be falling into a routine, at least many of them, that gets easier over time. The teenagers, it's quite the opposite.
Teenagers are at a unique stage of brain development. Is it challenging for them, given where they are, to kind of wrap their head around what we're going through?
Yeah, so 30 seconds on brain development, because it'll help you understand why the answer is yes. The brain develops in a very specific order, and it takes about 25 to 30 years for it to mature. By the time a kid is in middle school, the part of their brain that is fully mature is called the limbic system. And that's the part of their brain that's emotional, that's passion-driven, that's motivated by other kids and inspirational people. It's also the risk-reward impulsive part of the brain. And that's the part of the brain that sends and receives messages fastest. It takes until you're in your late 20s or early 30s for the prefrontal cortex to be developed. That's the forward-thinking, consequential, weighing your choices part of the brain. That's the part of the brain that allows you to really think ahead long term. So if you imagine being a tween or a teen or a 20-something, the part of your brain that sends and receives messages the fastest is the here and now in the moment part of your brain. And the part of your brain that exists, but it's just a little slower, is the part that can project forward. And so we're asking them to project forward. We're saying, don't worry, this is going to be over. You can look forward to doing this and this, even though we have no idea, by the way, what they can look forward to or when. But we're asking them to project forward in a way that I don't think they're developmentally wired to do. And they're trying, but it's a big ask.
How do you explain to kids what to expect? How to handle, when is this going to end, Mom? What's coming next? How do I make sense of my future? What do you tell them?
Older kids deserve complete and utter honesty. I don't know. The most reassuring thing you can do as a parent is be completely honest and straightforward with your kid. Because if you expect your kid to be honest with you, you've got to be honest with them, and none of us know, right? No one knows. For younger kids, I think that's a confusing message. If you're talking to a preschooler and you say, I don't know, that's big picture thinking in a way that they don't understand. And so you just describe a time when, yes, you'll be back in school. Yes, you're going to see your friends. You don't have to put a time frame on it. But if you've got tweens and teens in your house and you pretend to know, listen, they've got BuzzFeed. They know you don't know. All right? So I would have a very honest, raw conversation with them about it.
It seems unlikely that school will be back in session, and even summer camp. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of summer camps are canceled already. There are no summer jobs. What is your advice to parents helping prepare their older kids for summer?
Yeah, summer 2020 is basically canceled. That is true. And if it hasn't been canceled for you yet, I would look for that email because it's really hard to imagine a socially distanced or physically distanced, as I like to call it, summer experience, right? There's no sleepaway camp that offers that scenario. So most of the traditional summer offerings, even day camps, are already acknowledging that they're not going to be able to run. I think the harder thing is the job market, because a number of teenagers look for summer jobs in order to get experience, in order to earn money, right? They need the money. They want to save money for college. They want to save money to be able to support their own lifestyle beyond what their parents are able to do for them. Those jobs really don't exist right now. College students, college students are telling me that the job market is beyond dismal. There are no jobs for college grads, right? Because there are no jobs for Americans right now. And so the college grads are really feeling the pain of this. So I think as we roll into summer, an acknowledgement of the reality of what is going on is really important. The financial reality and the financial burden will be tremendous. I don't know how to solve that for any given family, but I can tell you that for the emotional trauma of it all, if you've got younger kids who are innovative, remember that limbic system, that part of the brain that's mature, it's innovative. So tell them to try to make up something that they can do to spend their time on. That something maybe creating their own job, creating their own online business, starting to run errands for people in the neighborhood who can't or shouldn't get out, like being the grocery pickup person or the drugstore pickup person. There are lots of local needs. And there are going to be places to fill those needs innovatively. And I think kids are especially prone to do that because they don't get as sick with coronavirus as adults do. But for the big picture, I think your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is better than mine, Jen.
I don't think so, but I like the advice on having them run errands because they're less susceptible. Last question, right? And it actually serves other people. That's
100%
passion in that.
That's right.
And
that's
we
right.
Team up now as a community.
I'll tell you, I'll give quick pitch for what my son does.
Yeah.
One of my neighbors runs a campaign called One Can Wednesday. Every Wednesday, everyone in our neighborhood is asked to leave one can out by their mailbox. And my son and a couple of other kids in the neighborhood get on their bikes and they collect the cans and they drop them off at my neighbor's house. My neighbor is involved in subsidized housing and she takes all the food out to people who can't afford it. So it's like this whole neighborhood effort. It's adorable and it makes everyone feel great.
Do you have video? Send me a picture. I want a picture.
I'll do it next Wednesday.
Okay, good.
Got it.
I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is the big question. People seem to think I know things that, are unknowable. So I'm getting inundated from all my friends who are parents saying, will school reopen in fall? Yeah. And I'm going to kick that question to you. So now you can answer the unknowable. What do you think?
No, I can say I don't know. We have no idea, but I do have a theory based on everything I've read. And my theory is that local K through 12 schools stand a far higher chance of reopening in the fall than boarding schools and colleges. And that theory is supported by articles that came out yesterday suggesting that a lot of colleges are looking at online programming through the fall. So we know they're already starting to plan for it, but also just some common sense realities. If you've got kids living on a campus, how do you shut down that campus quickly if you need to do that? And we think in the fall, schools will probably need to shutter. We don't know where, we don't know when, and we don't know how long. But I don't think you have that same agility when kids are living on campus. So that's why I think your local schools that cater to younger kids, K through 12, have a better chance of opening. That said, Jess, I don't know what school at a K through 12 looks like in the fall. Right? I don't know if my kids are wearing masks to school. I think they are wearing masks to school. I don't know if a cafeteria is open. I don't know how they sit together at lunch.
Right, 6 feet apart.
Right, I don't know. So I think I'm putting a lot of faith in our governors to work with our school systems to help come up with really clear markers of sort of guideposts of what we should do, because we're going to need it. As parents who are sending our kids back to school, we're going to need it. Ultimately, I think there will be a lot of flexibility in classrooms, and you'll start seeing classes streamed so that when kids do need to stay home, it will be as easy as flipping a switch. And if they think they're sick or they think a parent is sick, they don't risk going to school because they don't want to miss a class. So it's going to look really different in the fall.
And let me put a little context around this. You said that away colleges and places you board, it'll be more challenging in fall. The reason is because there's this expectation that the virus will stop spreading at an aggressive rate over the summer, but then rocket back up in late October, early November, just as kids are going back to school, basically.
Correct. That is the concern.
And then that becomes a challenge. Like, do you draw kids out of school if they're there? Do you leave? Right. So you're thinking maybe it'd be smarter just not to open.
Correct. And I'll say that the one piece of data that argues against my theory is when you look at modeling, a lot of studies have looked at that closing school has not had a tremendous impact on the death rate from coronavirus. So it's not that the numbers are insignificant, but they are very small because fewer kids get sick with coronavirus than adults. My bigger worry, frankly, is for the adults who teach in the school communities and then go home and spread it through their homes, or the kids who pick up from a teacher and then they go home and spread it to theirs. So it's, yes, I worry about the rare kid who's going to get really sick, but I worry about all the adults around them.
Okay, stepping back, big picture advice to parents who they're worried about their kids, they're taking care of their kids, but they also need some peace of mind themselves. Like being like mom, house cleaner, and teacher is just too much.
Yeah, it's too much, but it's the reality. So take space and time for yourself every single day. Model self-care to your kids. So that might mean getting a little exercise. It's your time alone. It might mean meditating. It might mean taking a bath. It might mean just handing off chores to your kids. So they're going to gather life skills that they really needed before they left the house, and you're doing it now. In my house, it's bathrooms and laundry, right? Like they've got those skills down, and that's not negotiable. And it's good for my wellness. They also need to take care of their wellness. So they need to be exercising, eating well, and sleeping well at night, which means their devices are out of their rooms.
Ooh, a lot in there. That was a good answer. You're the best, Cara. Thank you. You can find Cara Natterson through her newsletter, Worry Proof MD. I'll link it up in stories. And, you know, Cara's pediatrician, best-selling author, one of my oldest friends. And
friend of Jess.
And I look forward to having you back soon. We'll keep talking. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.